All right, so a very good evening, everyone. Today we'll have our very first session of Beyond the Classroom, which is an initiative by iTutorSL, and I'm Arshad. For all of you all wondering who exactly I am, so before we get into anything, right, I'll give you a brief introduction of who I am and what do we do in this program, right? So I'm Arshad, and I teach local A-level economics for the current batches that is going on. So right now we have the 2021, 2022, and the 2023 batch. And what is Beyond the Classroom? So Beyond the Classroom is a totally free class that I do to discuss all the past papers between 2011 and all the way to 2020. So when I say all the past papers, this is English medium, A-level, economics, past papers. So if you know, right, all of these past papers, all of these recordings will be available in our YouTube channel, which you are watching the first video right now. So how the program will be structured? The program will be structured in a manner where we do all past papers from 2011 all the way to 2020. But we will be doing it a little differently, right? How it would go on is we will start with all the questions from unit number 1. So you all know unit number 1, which is Introduction to Economics. We will start with the MCQs from the year 2011 that relates to this unit number 1. So once we are done with those MCQs, we will then go to the 2012 paper and do the MCQs of unit number 1. So similarly, the first thing that we would finish is we would finish all the MCQs under unit number 1 from the years 2011 all the way to 2020. And then once we are comfortable with the MCQs, now that we are good with the MCQs of unit number 1, we will now move on to the essay questions, the ones that you all have to start writing, right? The ones that you all don't really like to do. So we'll then move on to that. I will be discussing question by question. I will be giving you all structured answers where you also can attempt, you also can write with me. So ideally, to benefit from this program, right, there are two conditions. Number one is that I would expect you all to have some sort of knowledge in these units before you all watch these recordings, because this recording is a past paper recording and it is not for someone learning the unit for the very first time. So if you are a little lost with a unit, right, if you're a little lost with a unit, what you could ideally do is you could purchase the recordings, right? You could purchase my revision class recordings from our website, that is www.iTutorSL.lk. So you can catch up any unit that you have missed. If you have missed the entire grade 12 or 13 syllabus, even that there is an option where we would give you detailed recordings. So per unit, we'll have around 10 to 12 hours of recordings broken down into smaller parts, and also a comprehensive tute will be sent to you. That is if you are completely blank. I'm hoping at this level right now, none of you all are completely blank with any unit, but if you all are, if you all need assistance, you can always contact me on WhatsApp. My number is 077 0566 014. It will be available in the description below as well. So apart from that, right, that is condition number 1. In order to benefit from this program, I'll repeat, you need to have some sort of knowledge in the units. You can't be completely blank. And then condition number 2, the final condition is that, right, when you are coming for the discussion, you should have attempted the questions and come, right? If you should have gone through the questions, you should have attempted the questions by yourself and then come for the discussion and then come to, learn it under me. So then that would make much more sense. It would make it much more clearer. So I don't want anyone here to stay there, right? Anyone to just come, just watch the recording for the sake of doing it, because that is not the way of how to get things done. So just a general tip, right? A general tip about me or about how I got things done. So I'll just tell you all, since this is the very first class, right? I'm a student from St. Thomas's College, Mount Lavinia, and currently studying at the University of Colombo, Faculty of Management and Finance, involved in a lot of things. So in the same way, even in school, I was involved with a lot of other things. I was involved with my sports to prefectships to, everything was there. Given that, right, I was able to manage everything. So I'll just be honest with you all, right? I'm not the person who studied for hours and hours, right? Not the person who, studies on a daily basis. But the trick was, number one, to pay very close attention when the teacher is teaching. The very first time, put that concept into your head. And number two is, you need to play smart. So one way to play smart is your past papers, because if you know your past papers in and out from 2011 all the way to 2020, right? Most of it, almost 80% of the questions that you will get in your paper, okay, whichever year you do it, will be covered in those papers. So there is nothing that you need to worry about. Okay. Then, okay, speaking a bit more about me, right? I was placed among the top 50 in the island in the year 2017. So I did not do A levels that long ago. I did the A levels in the year 2017. So I can relate to your batch much better. I know what kind of, feelings you all have, what kind of attitude you all have towards the subject. I know what kind of things that is ongoing in your mind. So I relate to you all much better. And that is why so far I've been very successful in running this A-level classes. I've been doing a batch with more than 100 students. So with all thanks to everyone around, that has been going so far, it has been going good. So as a initiative to give back something to all the other students, not just my students who come for my class, as an initiative to give back to everyone out there. That is what we have this program. So I will give you all, while teaching, I will give you all a few tips, right? So I would want you all to follow that. And trust me, if you can do that, if you can engage and properly follow those few tips, right? You could also end up like me, right? With a very good island rank, with a very good uh, whatever is its score that you wish for. So my goal right over here is to make sure that every child, that no one is left behind. That is the main reason that I provide these recordings. So even if you've missed a class, even if you have done anything, it's not just my students for A levels that I'm concerned of. It's everyone in general. So I feel I can do something for y'all, and that is why this initiative is there. So once again, what we will be doing, we'll be doing past paper discussions. I'm not teaching theory from scratch here. How we will be doing the past papers, we'll start with unit by unit. We'll go unit number 1, 2, 3, 4, all that way. So we'll start with unit number 1. We'll start with the MCQs, right? I'm hoping that's pretty much good enough for an introduction. I'm hoping none of you all are lost and all of you all have some idea what we will be doing today. So today will be the very first session. I will be starting with the MCQs of unit number 1 for the year 2011, right? Okay, so we'll start with the MCQs for the year 2011. Yeah. So don't worry about what is written on the board or whatever that is there, because all of this I will be explaining one by one in detail why each of these answers are wrong and what exactly has happened over here. Okay. So we'll start with 2011 MCQ number 1. It belongs to unit 1, Introduction to Economics. So one main thing, okay, on how you all should do MCQs or how you all should practice questions is that when you do a particular unit, right? When you start with a particular unit, now there's a lot of people who ask me for study tips. So this is a small study tip that I would give you. You start with unit by unit. Don't study the entire syllabus at once and then try to answer questions, because that becomes a little tough then, right? Because there is too much of information overload. Let's study unit by unit and then put things aside. So as a recommendation, what I would want you all to do is first go through your theory notes or revision notes or whatever note that you all have for unit number 1, and then attempt the past papers. Even when you're attempting the past papers, you don't have to do all the past papers at a stretch. You start with the MCQs for 2011, unit number 1. There will be around 5 to 6 MCQs. Do those 6 MCQs. Go and mark your MCQs. Go and check the answer at the back of the textbook. Mark it. See where you went wrong. See what are the mistakes. Correct the mistakes. You then go to 2012. So now, when you do 2012, whatever question, if it was repeated in 2011, you will not make that same mistake again. So do the same thing for 2012. Do the 5 to 6 MCQs under unit number 1. Correct them. See where you went wrong, right? Figure it out. Then go to 2013. By that way, right, if you follow that method and if you keep on doing year by year by year, by the time you come to, let's say, 2019 or 2020, you will realize that all the possible MCQs from this unit has now been discussed, right? There is nothing new that you have to learn. Now you just do it and see. Maybe in the 2011 paper, you might get all 5 MCQs wrong. That's perfectly fine. But learn from it. See where you went wrong. And then by the time you come to 2019 or 2020, you will figure out that all your MCQs are now improved. Now you can do it better. So that is what I would recommend as a study strategy to work on and get things done. If you need any further assistance, there is a A-level economics class that I do. It's purely online. It's a purely online class where people from all around the country do join, and all tudes will be printed and couriered to your doorstep. The fee and everything is covered in your monthly fee. Any assistance with regarding to that, you can just look into my number that is there on the description below, and then drop me a text on WhatsApp. Right. We'll start with 2011 A-levels, question number 1. Now, to do these papers, I would also recommend that you all have a separate CR book with you. Okay. So have a separate CR book with you. Don't underline the answer in your A-level paper, in your past paper book itself, because then you can do it again and again, right? Because the moment you underline the paper, the moment you underline the past paper in your past paper, you don't have the opportunity to do it again and again. So do it in a CR book. Have a separate dedicated CR book. Let's say by a 120 page or 160 page CR book. And then we're starting with unit number 1. We'll do all the way until unit number 12. So that gives a lot of encouragement. The moment you finish a CR book of 120 pages and you see, wow, I've done this much of past papers, guys, that alone gives you a lot of confidence, right? That alone will give you so much of confidence, right? A day before A-levels, you go and see, wow, I've done all these papers, right? So do that. I'm pretty sure that you are at a very good level and you will be way ready and super ready for your exam, which is to come. We'll start with the 2011 A-level paper. Question number 1. A point inside the production possibility frontier. Now, since this is the very first class, I'll teach you a bit of basics. A bit of basics about the production possibility frontier, or in simple terms, a PPC, right? The PPC, a concept that most of the people, sometimes when you hear, you get scared about it, right? But it's a very simple concept. So if you look at a PPC, right, this curve here that I've just drawn in blue, this is what we call a PPC. So what is a PPC? A PPC is a very simple model, right? In economics, we have models. So this is a model that assumes that there are only two goods that they produce, that an economy produces only two goods. If that is the case, with all the resources the economy has, the land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, what is the maximum of that two goods that they can produce? So if you look at it, okay, now if the economy is producing on the PPC, then so if they are producing on the PPC, that means they are producing at their maximum level. That means they are using all their resources to the fullest. No, there is no one unemployed. There is no machine that is idling. There is no person that is idling. Everything is used to its fullest. So what does a PPC show us? It shows us the maximum sustainable output that can be produced using all the resources in the country. So if you look at this diagram, right, this country, they can produce different combinations. So I have given consumer goods and capital goods as the two axes. Now there is no rule saying the two axes have to be consumer and capital. It can be any good, right? Any two goods. So if you look at it, now this shows the various combinations. You can produce this much and maybe this much of capital goods, maybe this much of consumer, this much of capital. So any point, right, on the PPC shows that resources are used fully. Then what is a point outside? A point outside the PPC is a point that cannot be attained. That is what we call scarcity. Can you see the X that is marked over here? This one, this X that I just highlighted, that is what you call scarcity. Now, an economy can't produce on a point beyond the PPC. And then what is a point inside the PPC marked in blue over here? That is what you call unemployment. When resources are unemployed, now there's a big question that comes here. Now, when we think of unemployment, all of us think of labor only. We only think, okay, people don't have jobs. That is what unemployment is. But here, when you're talking of unemployment of resources, it does not only mean labor, right? We're talking about land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, all of it. So unemployment means you're not using the all the land, labor, and capital entrepreneurship in the country. So then coming back to this question, If you look at this question, we say a point inside the production possibility frontire. So what is a point inside? A point inside the production possibility frontire, the answer is number one. It indicates, right? It indicates some unemployed resource, indicates that resources are unemployed. Then it is unattainable? No. Which point is unattainable, guys? The point outside the PPC is unattainable. The question is saying a point inside. So inside is not unattainable. Inside is definitely attainable. Why is it inside? Because of unemployed resources. Then it is better than the points on the PPF? No, guys. Now remember, production possibility frontier, production possibility curve, production possibility boundary all mean the same thing, right? So in different papers, you'll have different names. Don't think it is different concept. Better than the points on the production possibility? No. So any point on the production possibility frontier shows that resources are used fully. So that point is way better, right, than a point inside. So a point inside is not better. Indicates full employment of resources? No. A point on the PPC represents full employment. And illustrates the idea of opportunity cost? Not really. A point inside does not illustrate the idea of opportunity cost. We'll talk about what opportunity cost is in a future question. So that is the first question. 2011 question number 1. Answer is number 1, right? Any point inside demonstrates unemployed resources. We'll then go into the second question of 2011, right? 2011 question number 2. So what is this? This question says a branch of economics that studies the decisions of individuals, households, and firms. Now, if you look at economics, there are two branches, that is microeconomics and macroeconomics. So what is microeconomics? You all would have studied this in business studies. Micro environment, macro environment, remember? So what is microeconomics? Microeconomics is where you study about a small portion of the economy. Let's say how a household is behaving, how a firm is behaving, right? You only look at a very small portion. That is what you call microeconomics. Then what is macroeconomics? Macroeconomics is where you look at the entire economy. For example, concepts like inflation, concepts like unemployment. Now, you don't say inflation rate of a household. You don't say inflation rate of, let's say, Colombo. When you call inflation, you say inflation rate of Sri Lanka. So macroeconomics talks about the entire economy, while microeconomics talks about a small portion. Maybe let's say demand for one good, right? Let's say how one household is behaving, how a firm is making a decision. That is what microeconomics is. So then this answer for question number 2, the branch of economics that studies decisions of individual households and firms, it's answer number 2 for question number 2, microeconomics. It's a very easy and a very obvious answer that is over there. So you can go through the note, right? You'll get a better understanding. And then we'll move on to question number 3, right? Now this is again a very common statement, right? It's a very common type of MCQ that you get in your papers. In your papers, they would ask you, which of the following is a positive statement, or which of the following is a normative statement? So what are these things? What is positive and what is normative? In very simple terms, if we are to take it, right, a positive statement is about something that has happened or that will happen. It is a fact, right? So these positive statements, it can be proven or disproven. Now remember, now there's a big mistake people make, right? People think that positive statements mean the truth statements, normative statements mean the wrong statements. That is not really the case, right? So positive does not mean true, normative does not mean wrong. Forget about it. If that is what you're thinking right now, completely forget about it. There is nothing like that. A positive statement can be true, can be false also, right? So a positive statement is a statement that can be proven. You can prove whether this is right or wrong. So for example, you all know there is a negative relationship between price and quantity demand. When price increase, quantity demand falls. That you all know. But if I say there is a positive relationship between price and quantity demand, that is wrong, right? For a normal good, you don't have that. But still, that is a positive statement. Why is that a positive statement? Because that can be proven. That can be proven. You can prove and say, is this fellow right or is this fellow wrong? Now, for example, if I say Sri Lanka's population uh, in 2021 is only 2 million, but actually population is 20 million. That statement is wrong, but it's still a positive statement. Why? It can be proved. So positive statements can be right, can be wrong. How do you figure it out? You figure it out, check whether it's a fact, check whether it can be proven or disproven. If that is the case, then it's a positive statement. Then what are normative statements? Normative statements are personal judgments, is what a person believes, right? So he thinks of different things. So for example, right, I can say that government workers should get an increase in their salary of 10,000. They're working very hard, they should get an increase in their salary. You will say, no sir, what nonsense, I went to get my license recently, these fellows made me pay a bribe also, I had to wait one entire day in the queue also, they should not get a raise, they should just you should just put these people out. So you also can be right, I also can be right. I can say, no, these government workers are also people who have been working hard. They also have families, so let's give them a raise of 10,000. So you will say, no, no, what nonsense. Now, those kind of statements are what we call normative statements. They are personal judgments, right? Now, these kind of statements, you can't say that you're right or I am right. Both of us, according to our opinion, both of us are right. So that is what you call a normative statement. And it is subjective. Subjective means it differs from person to person. So then we look at all of these statements and see which of the following is a normative statement. Number one, economists classify economic resources as land, labor, capital, entrepreneurs. Now that one, it's a fact, right? That is a definite fact. So that is a positive statement. Environment is an example of a scarce resource. Yes, that is again another fact. It's a positive statement. If income increases, sale of luxury goods will fall. Now that is actually false, right? If income increases, the sale of luxury goods will actually increase, right? But still, it can be proven or disproven, right? So given that it can be proven or disproven, it will become a positive statement. And then economies have limited resources to satisfy unmet wants. Again, it's a fact. But if you look at the final answer, that is number 5, which is actually the answer for question number 3, that says an unequal distribution of resources is unfair. Now, you can say it's fair, I can say it's unfair. Now, unequal distribution of resources means some people have a lot of resources. Some people are rich, some people are poor. Now, you will say it's unfair, right? You will say, no, sir, everyone has to live. No, why can't everyone earn the same income and everyone live happily like that? But I will say, no, some people, they studied very hard. Right? People like you all right now. See, right now, you all are, sacrificing some of your time and watching this recording also. What are you doing? You're trying to study. Then there are some other fellows, right, who are not even doing this. They are not even doing anything. And they're just waiting. But then, is it fair for you and that fellow to get the same income one day? No. So I will say, no, there are some people who have studied very hard. So those people, they will work well. They must get a higher salary. So they must get more resources. So those are personal judgments. I can say that is my opinion. My opinion is saying, people are studying hard, they have to get more income. You will say, no, sir, everyone has to live, no. Why can't we share everything and why can't everyone have the same resources? Right? So those are personal judgments. It cannot be proven, no disproven. So that is why that becomes a normative statement. So question number 3, answer is number 5. Okay. We'll then move on to question number 4. Right? Okay. So which of the following is an example of a natural resource? Now, when you say natural resource, right, a natural resource has to be something that comes from nature. That is not man-made. It can't be man-made. Now, for example, if you look at this farm, harbors, paddy field and everything, it might look like, very natural, nice to see all of it. But did that come from nature? No, those are things that people made. Now, if you look at a Victoria Dam, you think a dam just comes from nature? No, a dam is built by people. So that is not natural, that is capital, guys. That is capital, man-made resource. Then Hambantota Harbour, do you think it just came? No, people built it. Capital. A paddy field. Now a paddy field also must look like, very natural and more nature, scenery, this and that. But whatever said and done, a paddy field was also built by a person. He grew the paddy there, right? That is also capital. And then a poultry farm, a farm, guys, a farm where you have these animals and all of this. Do you think it just comes as nature? No, that is also built. That is also capital. And then you have this answer number 5. That is the correct answer. A dun in the waterfall. Now, no one builds a waterfall. A waterfall is a natural resource. So, which of the following is an example of a natural resource? It's answer number 5. That is the waterfall. All the other answers are capital. It has been built by someone. Okay. We'll then move on to question number 5. Right. This is a good question. Okay, so we'll just look at how many questions we have in this. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we have 6 questions from unit number 1. Sorry, 7 questions from unit number 1. Just 7 questions, that is 14 marks, guys. Look at the importance of that unit. Because some people, they ignore units. They think, okay, unit number 1 are very easy. I don't have to study this. But what happens? You get a lot of marks. 7 MCQs is 14 marks, and 1 essay question that you will get in your paper for sure from unit number 1, 20 marks. Total 34 marks you get from unit number 1 alone here, according to this paper. So 34 marks. Your paper is out of how much? 200. Part paper 100, paper 200. 200. How much do you need to get an A? 150 out of 200. From the 150 to get 34 marks itself, you can get from unit number 1. Look at the weightage, look at the power of that unit, right? That is why it's very important. If you do your past papers, you see that the same questions get repeated over and over and over again, right? Okay, we'll then go into question number 5, this one. An economic good is one which, what is an economic good, right? So if I, first of all, before we get into economic goods, before we get into anything, let me explain the concept of what an economic resource is, right? That is the first thing I would like to explain. So if you look at economic resources in economics, we have 4 of that: land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. So land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, they are called economic resources because these resources are scarce. What is scarce? Scarce means it is limited, not just limited, it is limited compared to our unlimited bonds. So we say land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship are scarce. So when these resources are used in the production process, and when you produce goods, when you use land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship in the production process and produce some goods, those goods are called economic goods. So economic goods, right, are goods that are produced using economic resources. Then what are free goods, guys? Free goods are, for example, let's say sunlight, air, water, right? Those are free goods. Now those type of goods, there is no production process. Whenever it is available, you have unlimited amount of supply of those goods. There is no price for those goods, right? But economic goods are the opposite. These economic goods, there is a production process, there is an opportunity cost, right? Now if you look at when producing an economic good, right? Now, for example, let's say I can give an example of an economic good. Let's say my computer, right? Right now I'm doing this class here, right, with my computer. Let's say I type in an example saying, an example for economic good, I'll say computer. So maybe right now you all also, maybe some of you all are on your computer, most of you all are on your phone watching this YouTube video, right? So then, right, this computer, to produce this computer, they would have used some land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, right? Now, those land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship could have been used to produce something else, no? But the economy used their land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship to produce this computer or the mobile phone you're there right now. Instead, they could have produced something else. They could have produced, let's say, a machine. They could have produced, let's say, a TV. So there is an opportunity cost because you are foregoing that to get this. I'll talk about opportunity cost also in a question that is to come, right? But for now, I am hoping that you have some idea about opportunity cost. So when economic goods are produced, guys, these resources have an opportunity cost. You could have done something else with the land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. Instead of producing this computer, you could have done something else. So there is always an opportunity cost. So then if you go to this answer, the economic good is one which has an opportunity cost in production. Yes, that is the answer. Look at the other answers. Does not use up resources. That is wrong. An economic good uses economic resources. You need land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. Then number two is supplied competitively, right? So supplied competitively, that does not always have to happen, right? Now we are looking at the proper meaning of an economic good. Now, supplied competitively means there is competition. Now, for example, right, there can be economic goods with no competition also. That is no problem like that, right? So then makes a profit. Now, you can't say all economic goods makes a profit. Now, for example, let's say government, they're giving you free textbooks. Now, is the government, now that free textbook the government is producing is also an economic good. They put land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship to produce that good. But does the government make a profit out of it? No, right? And then is available at zero price? Not really. Economic goods, right? Usually you have to pay a price. It will not be available at zero price. So which one is the best answer? Question number 5 is answer number 1, where there is an opportunity cost in production. Right. We'll then get into question number 6. This is a very interesting question, right? It's about reading a graph. So I'll explain this concept very simply, right? Pay proper attention, pay close attention. I am sure you would understand it then, right? How to read a PPC and how to find opportunity. Here, question number 6 is saying, the diagram shows production possibility curves before and after a technological advancement affecting the production of good X. So the good X, right? That product has had some technological advancement. Therefore, PPC shifts for that good only. Can you see the PPC has shifted only for that good? Then they are asking which of the following distances represent the reduction in the opportunity cost of producing OQ in terms of good X, right? So when you produce OQ, so let me erase the stuff that I have drawn here right now. I'll draw this once again, okay? How do you read this graph or what do you do? Earlier, right, so I'll just give some numbers here so you understand it better, right? Let's say OQ means 100. So earlier, okay, when you are producing 100 of good X, how much of good Y can you produce? How do you find that? You have to connect. So you draw a line upwards to the PPC and you connect here. Now this was the previous PPC. So earlier, when you're producing 100 of good X, you can only produce 50 of good Y. So how much of good Y are you foregoing? Because you're producing 100 of good X, can you see that 30 of good Y cannot be produced? If you produce nothing of good X, you can produce 80 good Y now. But when you're producing 100 of good X, you can now only produce 50 of good Y. So you're foregoing, right? Your opportunity cost is that 30 units, right? That purple and blue arrow there. That 30 units is your opportunity cost. So if I am to give as letters, it is J and N. The distance between J and N is your opportunity cost. So when you produce 100 good X, you have to forego or you have to let go Jn amount of good Y. But now, after the technological advancement, now what is happening? This PPC is shifting, right? Good X has a technological advancement. The moment the PPC for good X shifts, now look at the opportunity cost. Now, right, Let me show it in a different color. Now, when you're producing 100 of good eggs, can you see, when you're producing 100 of good eggs, you can produce 70 of good white. Now, how much is your opportunity cost? You are now only letting go JM, that is only 10 units of good Y you are letting go. So, what is our question? Our question is, which of the following distances represent the reduction in the opportunity cost? So, earlier, how much was the opportunity cost? It was JN, right? That is 30 units according to numbers I have given. But now what is the opportunity cost when you're producing 100 good eggs? Only 10 units, JM. What is your reduction in opportunity cost then? Earlier it is 30, now it is 10. Your opportunity cost has reduced by 20. So what is that 20? Where is that distance? That distance is here, no, between M and N. So that is why M and N here becomes the answer. So the reduction of the opportunity cost is M and N. Earlier opportunity cost is JN. Now the opportunity cost is JM. So what is the reduction? Is MN, right? Hoping that is clear and you have no questions there, right? We'll then move on to the last question of unit number 1 in the 2011 A-level paper. So after that, we'll go to the 2012 paper and do all that MCQs again. Okay. So 2011 MCQ number 7. An economic system characterized by private ownership. So private ownership means resources in the economy, that is the factors of production, are owned by households and firms. And then market allocation of resources, right, based on demand and supply, based on price mechanism. And decentralized decision making is called what? Is a very easy one. This is what you call a market economy. So a market economy is an economy, right, that has private ownership of resources, that makes decisions based on price mechanism, based on market forces, and also has decentralization making. That means even households and firms have the power to make decisions. Okay, so that answer there is an obvious one. Question number 7 is a market economy. Right, so we're done with the 7 MCQs for 2011. So can you all check how many of this did you all get right? How many out of 7? So anything, even if you have got 0 out of 7, that is perfectly fine if you have learned the 7 MCQs now. If you know how to do these 7 MCQs now. So take a small break. I'll give you all a 2-minute break, right? Take some small time. Okay, let's say I'll give you a 2 to 3 minute break. Go through these 7 MCQs again. Learn from the 7. See where you went wrong. See if there's anything new that you can learn. And then come back. We'll work on the 2012 MCQs. So take a 2-minute break and do come back. I'll also have some water. You also run around, have some water, text your boyfriend, girlfriend. If you have to say that Say has given me a break now, and then come back in 2 minutes. We'll look into this part. That is the 2012 A-level MCQs. Right. Right. So hopefully you're back from your break. I'm hoping that nothing much interested happened in your 2-minute break. So we'll get back to the 2012 A-level paper, right? 2012. So for those who are a little lost where we are, right? We're discussing past papers unit by unit, right? We're doing the 2011 paper. We did all the unit 1 MCQs. So we stopped from MCQ number 7. We did not do MCQ number 8. Why? Because that is from unit number 2. So we'll do all the unit number 1 MCQs, and then we'll come to unit number 2 a little later. So all the videos will be there in our YouTube channel. Right. So we come into unit number 2. That is the 2022, unit number 1, 2012 paper. First one. Due to scarcity of resources, what of this has to happen? So before I get into any of this scarcity or whatever, this is a very fundamental area in your paper, right? So I would like to take some time off to teach you this concept of what scarcity and how all of these relate. Now, you all know what scarcity, choice, alternative use, opportunity cost. You all know the concepts separately. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to put everything together, show you the relationship here. Okay. So now, if you look at resources, right? Resources in an economy, we have what? We have limited resources. That is the land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship we have in a country is actually limited. But if you look at our bonds, right? People's bonds, there are so much of bonds, right? There are unlimited amount of bonds. So limited resources and unlimited bonds. Because of that, because of limited resources and unlimited bonds, we come to the problem of what? We come to the problem of scarcity. So what is scarcity? It is the limitedness of resources compared to unlimited bonds. Then let's say for my example, right, I'll just assume that we have one scarce plot of land. That means we have one plot of land, let's say bare land, right? So from this plot of land, we have alternative uses. Alternative uses means now this scarce resource from a plot of land, is there only one thing we can do? No, right? We can do a lot of other things. So with these scarce resources, we have alternative uses like building a factory, coming up with a farm, right? Or let's say building a playground. So there are different uses for these for this scarce resource, which is what we call land. Then, if that is the case, my problem here is, or my question to you is, from this scarce resource, from this one plot of land we have, can we do all the alternative uses? Can we implement all of it? Can we have a factory? Can we build a farm? Or let's say a playground? Not really. We can't do all of that. So therefore, because of scarcity and because these scarce resources have alternative uses, what should we do? We have to start making a choice. We have to now we have to make a choice. So that is where, because of scarcity and because of alternative uses, we now come to the problem of choice. So choice is what? Where you select one of these alternatives. And the moment now, how will you select, guys? Now, when you select, will you randomly close your eyes and select, I want this? No. So a rational consumer, he would rank the choices that he has, right? Okay, this is the benefit I get from this option. This is the benefit I get from this option. So he will rank it. So let's say, right, me as a consumer, I have ranked this as, let's say, factory number 1, farm 2, and playground 3, right? Playground 3. So what I would do, I would always select the best alternative, that is building a factory. But now, when my choice is what? My choice over here is to have a factory, right? That is my choice. So when I make the choice of going with the factory, then we come into a concept called opportunity cost. What is opportunity cost? Opportunity cost is the cost of the next best alternative. Because I selected to build a factory in my plot of land, which one of these I couldn't do? What is the next best thing that I couldn't do? I couldn't have come up with a farm, right? So the opportunity cost becomes the farm. Remember, opportunity cost is not the cost of all the alternatives. It is the cost of the next best alternative. You can't say opportunity cost is farm and playground both, because you can't have both there. If not for the factory, what would you have done? You could have gone and put a farm there. So that is only your opportunity cost. So that is how all of these concepts relate. I'm hoping you all know this by now. So given said that, we'll now look at this problem. So due to scarcity of resources, every society must undertake central planning. Is there anything like that? Not really, right? We'll talk about what central planning and everything is in the areas to come. The government must decide how to allocate available resources, not just the government, right? Everyone has to decide. Some members of the society must live in poverty. What nonsense. Now, poverty and scarcity does not mean the same, guys. Now, there can be a question in your paper that distinguish between poverty and scarcity. Now, poverty means people don't even have they don't even have the money to satisfy their basic needs. They don't have the money to, let's say, get the minimum requirement for food, get the minimum shelter requirement. Scarcity is not that. Scarcity does not mean we don't have the minimum. Scarcity means we have, but it is limited compared to our unlimited wants. That is what scarcity is. And then, so every society, okay, number 4, every society must choose among competitive users. Among the competitive users, they have to make a choice. Can you see? Because of scarcity and alternative resources, I told you, we have to make a choice. We have to make a choice between the different alternative users that is there. This is what we say. Competitive users is what they are calling alternative users. So that is the correct answer. And then resource availability exceeds the possible amount of available resource. No, we have very limited resource. Our resource availability does not exceed. So answer for question number 1 is number 4. Okay. We'll then go to question number 2 in the 2012 A-level paper. Right. Again, a nice question. A production possibility curve might be shifted outward by each of the following except. Now, this is a question that everyone has, right? Everyone has a problem, does the PPC shift? Is it an inward movement? Does it a point movement, right? So in order to figure this out, right, I'll tell you the logic behind the PPC. It would then make much more sense. So what does the PPC show us? Remember, we studied in the 2011 paper also. PPC showed us the maximum, right? Maximum sustainable output that can be produced. So by using all your resources, what is the maximum sustainable output you can produce? So if this is the case, so then why will the PP now? A PPC shifting means now you can produce more goods or less goods. So if the PPC shifts outwards, that means you can produce more goods. If the PPC shifts inwards, that means you can produce less goods. So how come you can produce more goods and less goods? Guys, that depends on 2 factors. One is your resource endowment, right? Factor number 1. Resource endowment means the number of resources you have, the amount of land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship you have. So if the amount of land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship you have increase, then your PPC will increase. Now, in your question, they will not directly say land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship increase. For example, they will say there is inward migration. People are coming into your country. What does that mean? The amount of labor is increasing. PPC shifting outwards. So they will directly, in the question, they will directly not say land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship is increasing. Or they will say, for example, they will say, Sri Lanka finds a new mineral deposit in, let's say, in Mana. So if they are finding a new mineral deposit, that is land. Land is increasing. PPC shifting outwards. So resource endowment is the first thing. Resource endowment means how much of land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship we have. So if that increases, PPC will shift outwards. If it decreases, it will shift inwards. So let's say, for example, there was a tsunami and the buildings got destroyed. That means capital is decreasing. So PPC shifts inwards. That is one reason that causes the PPC to shift inward or outward, the amount of resources we have. The second reason, guys, is the factor productivity. That means from these factors of production, how much of output we can get. So that will depend on the technology, whether we are using, let's say, division of labor, the management methods we are using, the amount of human capital, that is the skills, knowledge, experience the labor has, right? So if these improve, if the factor productivity improves, again, PPC will shift. We have the same amount of land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. But if the productivity of that increase, again the PPC will shift outwards. If it decreases, PPC will shift inwards. So only these 2 reasons. Remember, there is no other reason that for your PPC to shift. Remember, your PPC will only shift. Number 1, if the amount of resources you have, that is your resource endowment changes. And number 2, if your factor productivity changes. Apart from that, any other reason, your PPC will not shift. So look at this. Which of the following possibility, right? Production possibility curve might be shifted outward by each of the following except. So they're asking which of the following is not a reason for the production possibility curve to shift. So number 1, look at answer number 1 here, right? This one. Improvement in technology. So when technology improves, obviously productivity increases. PPC shifts outwards. Movement towards a more open approach to free trade. Now, free trade and stuff we'll study in unit number 9 and 10. But free trade means you're engaging in international trade. When you're engaging in international trade, what happens? You can easily import, let's say, capital. You can get the machines from other countries. So when you go to free trade, guys, your capital, you can argue saying that your capital usually expands, right? So that will also shift your PPC. Number 3 is the answer. I'll leave it there. We'll go into the other one, right? An increase in the education level of general population. So education levels increase means that's your human capital, right? People are getting more educated now, they can produce much more. And then improvement in productivity. Productivity itself is the main reason. Factor productivity will cause the PPC to shift. But if you look at this, decrease in unemployment. Now, decrease in unemployment does not mean your labor resource is increasing. Decrease in unemployment means you had the resources, but now those resources are starting to get used. They're starting to get used. So how do you show decrease in unemployment? It's like this. From a point inwards to a point towards the PPC. That is how you show decrease in unemployment. Now, a decrease in unemployment does not mean your resources are increasing. The resources were already there. You are now making better use of it. That is what that means. So that will not cause a shift in the PPC. So answer is number 3. Hoping that is clear. We'll move on to question number 3. Okay, second. Okay, we'll move on to question number. Okay, we look at how many questions we have here. We have question 3, question 4, 5, 6. Okay, so this year we have 6 MCQs from the paper. That is 12 marks there, right? Okay, we're done with question number what and what. We're done with 1 and 2. So we'll go into question number 3 now. Okay, so question number 3 is saying, if resources were perfectly substitutable in all activities, which of the following would be true? Remember, when you talk about a PPC, there are different types of PPCs. You have a straight line PPC, you have a concave PPC, right? So what does a straight line PPC show? A straight line PPC shows us that there is constant opportunity cost, that the opportunity cost is constant when moving from one industry to another industry. Guys, I'm hoping you all know what opportunity cost is and what, increasing and constant opportunity cost is, right? If you can't remember, please go and refer to your theory or revision notes. Revision class students, all your recordings are there. You can go to the recording and check whatever that is there. So anyone watching from YouTube, guys, you also would have studied it under somewhere. Please go and refresh that area. So then if we come into constant opportunity cost, right? That means whenever you're increasing the production of one unit, the amount of the other unit that you forego is the same. So every time you're increasing, let's say, buns by 10 units, the amount of bread you have to forego will remain constant. So then, why do we have constant opportunity? What is the main reason? One main reason is that you have homogeneous resources. So homogeneous resources, right? Homogeneous resources means all resources are the same. They are perfectly substitutable. That means the same. So breads and buns, let's say, for example, are using the same oven, the same labor. That means the same, let's say, baker, right? So perfectly substitutable. And then the production technology is the same. So in this case, when you have perfectly substitutable resources, that denotes that you have constant opportunity cost. The moment you have constant opportunity cost, what kind of a PPC will you have? You will have a straight line PPC, something like that. So if resources were perfectly substitutable in all activities, which of the following activities would be true? Output of all goods could be increased at zero opportunity cost? No. Remember, constant opportunity cost does not mean zero opportunity cost, okay? Constant opportunity cost means there is an opportunity cost. It is constant. It is the same amount. Then production possibility curve would be a straight line. Yes, that is true. That is the answer. Look at the other one. Specialization and mutually beneficial trade would be impossible. That is a different story. We'll talk about that in unit number 9 and 10. No country or individual would have a comparative advantage. Again, unit number 9 and 10. Scarcity would be eliminated. No, even in a thing where you have constant opportunity cost, there is still scarcity. So the answer for that becomes which one? Answer becomes question number 2 for question 3. So for those who are lost, we are in the year 2012, MCQ number 3. Okay, we'll then get into this one. Okay, question number 4. Now this I discussed before. So when I discuss a concept before, I will not explain that again. Which of the following is a microeconomic concept? What is microeconomics? Microeconomics is where you focus on one small portion of the economy, right? So a rise in interest rate, that is macroeconomics. Drop in inflation, macroeconomics. Inflation, you don't talk about a small part, you talk about the entire country. GDP in the US, right? When you say GDP, it's the entire country, macro. Drop in Sri Lanka's unemployment rate. Unemployment is macro, Sri Lanka's unemployment, right? But if you look at an increase in the price of milk powder is just one good, right? So focusing on one small portion is what we call microeconomics. So increase in the price of milk powder is a microeconomic concept. That is answer number 5 for question 4. Then we'll get into question 5, right? Okay, a free good. Remember I taught you all economic good in the 2011 paper. Now we are coming to free good. So free good, remember I told you, a free good is a good that is unlimited in supply, right? That, things like sunlight, things like air, things like that. And then when we use these free goods, what's their opportunity cost? Just because you are going and drying your clothes in the sun today, now these days and all, it's very raining. I don't know when you all will be watching the recording, but whenever you all watch this YouTube video, I don't know if it would relate that day, but right now these days it's raining too much. But forget about that. If it's sunny and let's say you go and dry your clothes in the sunlight, you use that sunlight, is there an opportunity cost? Are you letting go something else? Could you have done something else with that sunlight? Oh, are you missing something else? Because I went and dried my clothes, I can't get some sunlight to let's say go to the beach and sunbathe and wait. I know you all don't sunbathe, but foreigners sunbathe, right? Is there something like that? No, there is no opportunity cost. So free goods, it has no opportunity cost in supply. Then can you say free good is supplied by the government? Sunlight, look at the examples. Sunlight, air, rainwater. Is it supplied by the government? No, it's supplied by nature. You can't say that. Has no externalities. We'll talk about externalities later, right? In unit number 8. It is perfectly inelastic supply. Perfectly inelastic supply means the supply cannot change at all. But now if you look at sunlight, if you look at let's say rainwater, the supply changes, right? Sunlight, sometimes the sunny days you have a lot of sunlight, but then let's say in the rainy days not much of sunlight, so supply is changing. But inelastic and all, we'll study again in unit number 2. And then its production is subject law of diminishing returns. That is a different concept we'll study in unit number 4, right? So none of that are characteristics. Which is the correct characteristic is that a free good has no opportunity cost in supply, right? There is no opportunity cost. That means just because you consume the free good, you don't let go anything else, you don't forego anything else, right? And then for question number 6, so can you see now CEM type of questions that come, right? So which of the following is a fundamental aspect of a free market system? Remember they like last time also they asked free market, but they asked the question differently. They gave characteristics and they asked which type. Now they are giving the type and they're asking which of the following is a characteristic. It's the same thing that they ask guys in different ways. So which of the following is a fundamental aspect of the free market system? So a market economy, a high degree of government involvement? No, guys, a market economy does not have a government. It's all private sector, right? Public ownership. Remember when they say public, public means government, right? So public ownership of resources? No, not again. And then private property? Yes. Private property means the private sector owns the property resource. The land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship is owned by the private sector. Yes, that is a feature. Central planners set wages and price. That is a command economy. No. Employers consult government agencies for guidance in hiring. That. There is nothing like that in a free market system. So what is the fundamental aspect? Is that you have private property. What is private property? Once again, the private sector, right? Households and firms are the ones who owns the resources. So that brings us to the end of the 2012 paper. Okay, take a minute and see how many of this have you got correct. I'm hoping there would have been some improvement compared to 2011 paper now. Yeah, so even if there is no improvement, don't worry. What you have to ideally do now is now see, go through the papers 2011 and 2012. Now figure out where you went wrong. See what are the mistakes you made. Learn from the mistakes. If you are not sure of an area, go and check your revision or theory tunes. My students, the recording is always there. You can go to your revision class recordings that is there in our website and watch it, right? So go and see where you all missed and now correct it. So now you have done 13 MCQs from unit number 1. We'll correct all that. We'll see where you all went wrong, learn from it, and now we'll get into the 2013 MCQ paper. So if you look at 2013, now 2013 in general, right? I'll just tell you all, 2013 is one of the hardest papers in economics, right? For econ, the 2013 paper is usually the hardest paper, right? So we'll see hard. I'm not saying hard does not mean impossible, right? Hard means a little hard compared to the previous year. So we'll see how many questions we have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we have 6 papers, sorry, 6 MCQs in this paper. So I'll give you all a 1 minute break, have some water, do whatever that you all have to do, right? And then come back to, listen to this 2013 A-level paper. So take a minute break and then do come back. Right, okay, so must be back from your small mini break. Hoping you all had something to eat, had some interesting stories from your girlfriends or boyfriends. So text. We'll now get into the 2013 A-level paper, right? Okay, so 2013 A-level paper, again, question number 1. Which of the following is a normative statement? Can you see that same question is getting repeated now, right? Okay, so economics. Now, I'm not going to explain in detail because we studied this in unit 2011 paper, right? So answer 1 says economics classify natural resources as renewable and non-renewable. That's a fact, positive. The environment is an example of a scarce resource. Again, it's a fact, positive. Economies have limited means to satisfy unlimited wants. Again, it's a fact, a positive statement. Rate of inflation in Sri Lanka at present is a single digit. Is it? Yes, it is a single digit. So as homework, go figure out, go find out, go Google how much is the inflation rate of Sri Lanka right now. But whether it was a single digit or double digit, it does not really matter. It still becomes a positive statement. Whether it's true or false is not our question here. As long as it's a fact, as long as it can be proven or disproven, it is a positive statement. And look at the last one again. Can you see the same question again, right? An unequal distribution of income is unfair. So you can say it's fair, I can say it's unfair. So that becomes a normative statement. It's a subjective thing. Okay, that is easy. Question number 1, answer is number 5. We'll then get into question number 2. Right, now this is an interesting story, right? The opportunity cost of increasing capital investment in a fully employed economy would be. So I'll just give you in very simple terms, right? An economy in general, there are 2 types of goods an economy can produce. Number 1 is capital goods. Number 2 is consumer goods. Now, what is a capital good? What is a consumer good? A capital good is a good that is produced to produce more goods. Now, for example, a machine, a building. Now, why do you produce a machine? Why do you produce a building? In order for that machine or that building to produce more goods in the future, right? So what are capital goods? Once again, goods that are produced to produce other goods. That is a capital good. Then what is a consumer good? A consumer good is a good that is used by the final consumer, that you use. You don't use that to produce another good, right? So then these are the 2 types of goods an economy can produce. Now, if you look at this 2 economies, right? I'm showing you economy 1 and economy 2. So I'll label this, right, as economy 1, right? They are economy 1, right? Let's say this is one country, this one, okay? And then let's label economy 2. Okay, so there is economy 1 and there is economy 2. So I'll highlight it also so it is much more visible. Okay. So economy 1, economy 2. Now let's say economy 1, let's say this is their current PPC, this blue one. Okay. And they are allocating more resources to produce capital goods. That means, can you see, they're producing more capital, less consumer goods. What does that mean? They are producing more machines, more buildings, right? But the consumer goods they are producing is less. So what can we say about their current living standard? So how is a country's current living standard measured? A country's current living standard means, what are the types of food they are having, the vehicles, the clothing they are wearing, how their living standard is measured based on the amount of consumer goods a country produces, right? So if you look at this economy 1, the amount of consumer goods they are producing is very less, right? So their current living standard is low, right? So you say their current living standard is low. But what happens in the future? Now they are producing a lot of machines and stuff, right? So in the future, what happens? Their PPC will shift outwards by a greater proportion. Why? Now the machines and buildings and stuff that they are producing, the capital goods they are producing will be able to produce more goods in the future. So in the future, their economy will grow by a lot. So their future growth potential is high. But if you look at economy 2, on the other hand, they are producing more consumer goods. Look at their PPC, the blue one, right? So their current living standard is high. Right now they have, very good clothes, very good food, right? Current living standard is high. But since they are producing very little capital goods, in the future, their growth potential is very low. Can you see their PPC shifts only by a little? So that is the story about current consumption and future growth. So economy 1, their current consumption is less, but their future growth will be high because they are producing a lot of capital goods. Economy 2, their current consumption is very high. They are, very happy. They're having good living standards. But in the future, their growth potential is very low. So that is a basic story there. Given that, let's try to understand this. So opportunity cost of increasing capital investment in a fully employed economy. So let's say economy 1, if they are trying to increase more of capital goods that they are producing, what should they let go? They have to decrease or they have to forego their consumption goods. So fall in consumption is the answer. So what is the answer for question number 1? When you try to increase more and more capital investment, your consumption will tend to fall, which becomes the opportunity cost. So question number 2, answer is number 1, not any of the others. We'll then get into this. Okay, this one is it's a purely theoretical question, right? A theoretical question, what is a transition economy? Remember that a transition economy is an economy that is moving from central planned economic system to a market economic system. So if you know earlier, most of the economies were planned economies run by the government. So for example, China mainly, right? So China was mainly by the government, but now they're moving towards a market economy. So what is a transition economy? An economy moving from from central planning to a market economy. It's a purely theory one. Answer is number 2. Then we'll get into question number 4. Right. Now, can you see here? In the previous 2 papers, they asked about a market economy. What is a characteristic and this and that. Now, in here, what did they do? Here, they're asking you a characteristic of a centrally planned economic system. So what is a centrally planned economic system? Where the government controls things, where things are owned by the public sector, right? So then allocation of resources are based on relative prices. No, that happens in the market economy, price mechanism. Private ownership of resources, again, no, that's a market economy. So answer is number 3, guys, right? So okay, my circle here looks like 2 and 3 both, but no, it's only 3. Okay, I'll make it this. Okay, so the decisions taken by the government planners regarding how best, right, to produce goods and services in the economy. So it's the government who makes the decisions. That is exactly what you call a centrally planned economy, where the government makes the decisions. And then look at number 4, achievement achievement the achievement of economic efficiency is superior to market economic system. Not really, again. An unequal distribution of income of wealth, no. In a central planned authority, central planned economic system, generally we assume that there is equal distribution of income and wealth, where the government will make sure there is equal distribution of income and wealth. So which one is the answer? Which is the correct characteristic? It's answer number 3 for question 4. And then we'll move on to question number 5. Okay, question number 5 is about it's from unit number 2 and unit number 2, right? Consumer surplus. So we'll skip question number 5. We'll look into that a little later when we discuss unit number 2. So I'm skipping question 5 for now. We'll look at the next question, question number 6, right? So 5 I have skipped. I will discuss that in when I'm discussing unit number 2, right? Okay, so now look at this one. Now this looks a little confusing, right? It looks a little complex. Lot of, there's a lot of diagrams, a lot of numbers and all of this. Oops, where did my diagram go? Okay, it's there. Okay, so we look into this, right? That is this question. So this says the diagram shows the production possibility curves of 2 countries. So country X and country Y. This is a really good question, right? Then which statement about the 2 countries are correct? So before we get into any of these statements, right, let me put these values, right? Let me put the numbers in this into a table. Look at country X. The maximum amount of capital goods this country can produce is 200. So country X, capital goods, I'm writing it down as 200. What is the maximum amount of consumer goods this country can produce? 100. So consumer 100. That is their ratio. They can either produce 200 capital goods or 100 consumer goods or anything in between. Then if you look at country Y, so country Y, they can produce 100 capital goods, that is the maximum, and 200 consumers. So based on that, I have written this thing. Now, based on these numbers, shall we calculate opportunity cost? Opportunity cost of what? Country X and Y of producing a good. So opportunity cost is what? What is the equation? The foregone units divided by gain units. So to get some amount of goods, how much of goods you have to forego? So if you look at country X, right, we are calculating opportunity cost of producing what? Of producing consumer goods. So opportunity cost of producing consumer goods. So for both the countries, we are calculating opportunity cost of producing consumer goods. Okay, so then if you look at this, okay, sorry, small typing error, a little, this board is a little, it gets stuck a little, it's a little slow. I'm wondering what is the problem. Okay, right. So if you look at country X, right, to produce 100 consumer goods, right, to go from here to here, to produce 100 consumer goods, they have to forego 200 capital goods. So that is why foregone units is 200 capital goods to produce, to gain 100 consumer goods. So to get one consumer good, their opportunity cost is 2 units of capital goods. Then look at country Y. To get 200 consumer goods, they have to forego 100 capital goods. So their opportunity cost is 100 divided by 200, 0.5 capital goods. That is, to get one consumer good, country X has to forego 2 capital goods. To get one consumer good, country Y foregoes 0.5 capital goods. So that is a basic thing. We can calculate opportunity cost for consumer goods also, but we don't need that right now. We'll look at the answers, right? So both which statement about 2 countries is correct? Number 1, both countries have identical opportunity cost. No, right? The opportunity cost is different. So wrong. Both countries have the same future growth prospect. Remember earlier we showed that this country, if a country is producing more capital goods, they have a better future growth prospect. Their growth potential is much higher. Now here, these both countries, they have not told us where they are producing also. So you can't really conclude that, but maybe you can say country X has a higher growth prospect because they are producing 200. But still, they have not really told me that is the point they are producing. So you can't conclude that as well. Number 3, the opportunity costs are increasing in both countries. Now, opportunity cost, is it increasing here? You have a straight line PPC. Straight line PPC denotes what? A straight line PPC denotes constant opportunity cost, not increasing opportunity cost. That is why that is also wrong. Then number 4 says two countries can never produce the same combination. Now, can you see at this combination where these 2 points are intersecting, right? If I remove this at this X, right here, both the countries are producing the same combination. No? So let's say 75 units of capital goods, 75 of consumer goods. So both countries PPC, they can produce that combination. So they can produce the same combination also if they want. So you can't say that they can never produce the same combination because these points are intersecting at one point. That means they can produce that combination. And then answer number 5 is the answer. Country X has a higher opportunity cost than country Y in producing consumer. That is why I calculated this opportunity cost. So if you're figuring out the opportunity cost for country X, right, to produce a consumer good, their opportunity cost is 2 units of capital. For country Y, to produce a consumer good, their opportunity cost is 0.5. So who has a higher opportunity cost? It's country X. So that makes this statement correct. Country X has a higher opportunity cost than country Y in producing consumer goods. This is actually a very good question if you have, properly gone through and if you really understood the logic behind this entire answers and the question. So that is question number 6. And yes, that brings us to the end of unit 1 MCQ discussion for the year 2013. So what we will be doing, we'll end the session from there for today. From the next session, we'll look into the 2014 MCQs. So 2014 MCQs, we'll start it from next class. So before we go through, I'll just summarize on what we are doing here, or what are we looking at. So for all those wondering, this program, right, which you all will be watching now in YouTube, some of them are recorded freshly. Some of these recordings are recordings which I did with a few bunch of students, right? So this is where we discuss past papers from 2011 all the way to 2020, right? So in the future, we'll add the 2021 paper when it's out. We'll add the 2022 paper when it's out. But for now, only 2011 to 2020 is available. So we'll start with unit by unit. We're going unit by unit. First, you all will see, you will have a different playlist. Unit number 1, all the recordings. Unit number 2, all the recordings. So all these recordings are past paper discussion. So I think now you know how things work, right? After watching this, you know how we finish paper by paper, unit by unit, right? And now we'll do the 2014 paper in the upcoming class. We'll then get into the other things. Any of y'all, if y'all need further assistance on anything, any unit that y'all are completely lost, any class that you feel you want to join, there is a completely online economics class, whether there is corona or not. It will always be completely online, right? You can drop me a text. The number is there below. You can drop me a text. I will guide you based on your batch, based on where you are, how you can figure out, no matter what level you are. I have a solution for y'all on how y'all could cover things up. So don't worry too much about that. Just drop me a text if you need any further assistance. In addition to that, keep watching these recordings, right? We'll be doing unit by unit. I will upload them a little by little. Soon or later, all of the recordings of all the past papers will be available. If you can complete all these past papers and go, that gives you a huge benefit, right? And also, one more additional benefit, if you're in the revision class, if you're in one of my theory record revision classes, all the recordings of my theory or revision classes will be provided. So even if it clashes with another class, you can still watch it after that. If you have questions, you can WhatsApp me and text me and clarify. You can watch it unlimited amount of times, no problem on that, right? So all of that is available. If you have any doubts, any questions, you can just drop me a text on WhatsApp. My number will be below. We'll look into the 2014 paper in the next class. So till then, have a very good day. Anyone who has questions, you all can stay and clarify. That's it from me for today. See you guys. See you next week in the next session for the 2014 paper. See you guys. Bye.